Despite publicly supporting the Paris Climate Agreement, oil and gas giant ExxonMobil continues to thwart efforts to combat climate change. This is according to an undercover investigation by Unearthed.
You're going to have to watch this. It's pretty incredible. A senior lobbyist for Exxon told an undercover reporter that the company has been working to stymie key climate initiatives for President Biden's American Jobs Plan. Watch this clip.
Did we aggressively fight against some of the science? Yes. Did we join some of these shadow groups to work against some of the early efforts? Yes, that's true. But there's nothing illegal about that. We were looking out for our investments. We were looking out for our shareholders.
I just have an impulse to frame that, but I can't because it's a video. But when he says there's nothing illegal about that, it's yes, thank you. That's exactly the point. And his whole thing where he's well, did we murder penguins? Yes. He just asks the question, then answers it, and then it's but it's not illegal.
Are we annihilating civilization? Yes, but there's nothing illegal about that. and this is talking about ExxonMobil's role in previous decades in manipulating the science and suppressing evidence that they had about what their activity was doing. But he also then goes on later in a lot of these conversations to talk about what they're still doing up until today, which is remarkable in the sense not that it's necessarily surprising to people, but that it cuts so sharply against what their public presentation has been.
Yeah, exactly.
As we said, they're hey, Paris climate, wonderful. And hey, and we'll talk about this later. Hey, carbon tax, yes, absolutely. We need to transition, and we're going to take the lead in transitioning away from fossil fuels and into renewable and clean energy. And what he later reveals is that this is all just a fraud.
It's a smokescreen
to try to perpetuate as long as possible the fossil fuel and the oil industry. And the public and the world needs to understand that and needs to stop listening to Exxon when it comes to this.
It is a propaganda campaign designed as the cost of doing business, right? It is just baked into their business model at this point. And by the way, we were talking about Beltway newsletters this week. I'm sure they advertise their support for a Paris Agreement in Beltway newsletters. I'm sure they've been advertising with it and putting money behind it. And that's, again, it's the cost of doing business for them. And when you look at these, when we talked about the tax code this week, you have the billionaires being well, yeah, I took that ridiculous deduction. Yeah, I had my money in a Roth IRA, but it's legal. And so, change the tax code. Well, it's yeah, change lobbying laws, and we won't do it. And they all talk like that. But in this case, him just flatly being explicitly it's not illegal after he outlines it in his own words. It's too perfect.
And he's even defending what they were doing in the 70s, 80s by saying it's not illegal, which is not that's not actually clear. That very well may have been illegal. What they were doing because they were, at a minimum, they're lying to investors, which is a serious felony. If you're not being honest with your investors about how your own activity is going to impact your future profits, then that itself is a violation. But even if you want to take him at his word that what they're doing might be wrong but is illegal, it cuts against the image that they're trying to put out, which is that, okay, yes, we were bad before, but now you can trust us.
Yes.
Now we're actually trying to do things right. And he talks about what they're doing with the American Jobs Plan and with around the infrastructure fight. And he mentions specifically Joe Manchin, the Exxon. He went on to admit speaking to West Virginia Democrat Manchin's office regularly. Let's take a listen to that.
You want to be able to go to the chief. And so the chief knows that you can go to the chief and say, look, we've got this issue. We need Congressman so-and-so to be able to either introduce this bill. We need him to make a floor statement. We need him to send a letter. You name it. We've asked for everything. Joe Manchin, I talk to his office every week. He is the kingmaker, and he's not shy about sort of staking his claim early and completely changing the debate.
First of all, is he like strapped into a roller coaster?
Maybe he's got a gaming chair.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. But it's unbelievable. I mean, it's just so, it's not surprising, but to your point, it cuts so against what everybody is saying in public that it's too perfect.
And do you think this puts pressure on Manchin around climate in the upcoming infrastructure package to have an Exxon lobbyist, a top Exxon lobbyist, bragging that he's in touch with Manchin's office every week? It's implying that they're working very closely on strategy. And so does this kind of force Manchin to show that no, this is not who he is? In fact, he's supportive of actual efforts to reverse climate change.
Yeah, but I think it's easy for him to do that. So I do think that there'll be some sort of gesture, right? And he's going to, in his office, and even his comms people are going to support him coming out and making some sort of statement that gets to it, and that he supports some policy that's like a little further than you would expect a central or a centrist Democrat to pursue. I think so, but I also feel like it's really easy to do that on a superficial level, and sort of just then you can go along, because he's pretty Teflon politically. At least he thinks he's pretty Teflon politically, and he acts like he's pretty Teflon politically. So I think it'll be another, just like what Exxon is doing, it'll be a smokescreen. It's easy to sort of do that stuff on a superficial level and then go along with your life.
Although I wonder at some point if this stuff starts to pile up. Like on our podcast, Deconstructed, we published this audio of a private meeting of Manchin meeting with these billionaires and other donors, where he suggested to them, look, I need Roy Blunt to switch his vote on the January 6th commission because it makes me look like a clown if I can't even get 10 Republicans to support a bipartisan commission. And look, hey, Roy Blunt is retiring, so maybe some of you who are going to be working with him in his next life could talk to him, and that could get him to switch his vote. Very not so subtly suggesting they dangle financial incentives in front of a retiring senator in order to get him to switch his vote.
Right.
Which is like, I'm pretty sure you can't do that.
No.
That's maybe the way you did it is.
It's probably technically legal.
Legal-ish,
yeah.
But it's awfully close to soliciting a bribe for somebody else, which is so weird.
Yeah.
Did the law even contemplate soliciting a bribe for somebody in the other party?
Actually, I don't think so. Yeah, no.
But it is if they did it the way he suggested, then it would be illegal. They could, if they were clever about it, and wink, wink, boy. Give some great board opportunities for anybody who can show that they're a true patriot on the January 6th commission. Then maybe, I don't know. But so anyway, does this stuff start to stack up against against his public image?
I think it does, as long as it's lobbyists, right? Because I think that's actually gives Republicans, and Democrats that want to take him on in whatever capacity he runs again. That gives them, I think, the lobbyist thing is particularly in a state that's very anti-establishment, pro-Trump, gives them a really, really potent line of attack against Joe Manchin. So I think as long as there's backroom audio and there's lobbyists talking about their relationship with Manchin, I don't think it's so much climate. I think it's the lobbyist part of it. And to the point about just empty signaling, while the company Exxon says it supports certain initiatives like a carbon tax, the lobbyist reveals that's just PR. This is exactly what we were just talking about. The politicians do it, and then the companies do it on the other side. So let's go ahead and take a look.
Nobody is going to propose a tax on all Americans. And the cynical side of me says, yeah, we kind of know that. But it gives us a talking point that we can say, well, what is ExxonMobil for? Well, we're for a carbon tax. No, it's not going. A carbon tax isn't going to happen. And the bottom line is it's going to take political courage, political will in order to get something done. And that doesn't exist in politics. It just doesn't.
And so it starts out, you think he's going to say it takes political courage to get something done, and you could see him saying, and ExxonMobil is going to be there to help save the world. And he's like, no. Actually, it takes political courage to take us on.
Right.
And nobody has political courage. Therefore, we're cool.
Oh, and by
the
way,
fine.
Why do they not have political courage? Because Exxon, maybe they're on the phone with Joe Manchin every week.
and spending outrageous amounts of money around the world to shape public perceptions of this issue. And environmentalists and climate activists have known in their hearts for a very long time that the oil companies who have said they support a carbon tax don't actually support a carbon tax. They only came out for a carbon tax at the time that cap and trade was the kind of dominant approach that people were suggesting be taken to climate change. And so it was seen as a smokescreen that since they knew carbon tax wasn't going to happen, well, that would be the safe thing for them to support. It's wild to see him just straight up say, we support it because we know it's not going to happen.
I mean, it is incredibly explicit, and it's amazing, too, because he thinks he's speaking candidly. And that is so telling. It's one of those things that you just need to bookmark in your mind, because we may just have this example and we may have other examples here and there, but this is what is happening behind the scenes every single day. That is his job. You can see his little title at the bottom of the screen there. I think it says Federal Outreach, like Director of Federal Outreach.
Relations, yeah.
Federal Relations at ExxonMobil. Now you know exactly what that means. That is that man's full-time job. It's happening every single day behind closed doors. Sometimes it gets caught by undercover cameras. Most of the time it doesn't. So we'll tell you what America is thinking after this.